Title: My Father Suddenly Called. Where are you now? I was at my in-laws' house for my wife's birthday party. At my in-laws, the whole family is here, I said. Listen, take your daughter and get out now. I asked, why? He replied, just do it now. Don't ask questions. His voice was unlike anything I'd heard before. I grabbed my daughter and ran out of the house. What happened next was shocking. Chapter 1. The Call. The party was in full swing. Laughter spilled out of the dining room, glasses clinked, and the rich aroma of roasted lamb and buttered naan filled the air. My wife's family thrived on loud celebrations, and tonight was no different. Her birthday was an excuse to gather everyone, cousins and all, under one roof. I was standing near the kitchen, balancing a plate of cake for my daughter, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Dad. I almost didn't answer. He rarely called when he knew I was at family events, but something made me swipe the screen. Hey, Dad. His voice was sharp, urgent. Where are you now? At my in-laws, I said, glancing toward the crowded dining room. The whole family's here. Why? He took a breath that sounded more like a warning than a pause. Listen, take your daughter and get out now. I froze. What? Why? Just do it now. Don't ask questions. His voice cracked, not with weakness, but with a tension I'd never heard from him before. I didn't argue. I set the plate down, crossed the room, and found my daughter playing with her cousins. Come on, sweetheart, I whispered, forcing calm into my voice. We're going for a drive. Behind me, my wife called, Where are you going? The candles aren't even lit yet. I didn't answer. My father's tone was still ringing in my ears. The night air outside was cool against my face as I buckled my daughter into the car seat. My heart was thudding hard now, my mind racing through a dozen scenarios. I pulled away from the curb and hit redial. Dad, I'm out. Now tell me what's going on. What he said next made my grip tighten on the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. Chapter 2. The Warning. Dad's voice came through the speaker, low but urgent. Drive somewhere public, a gas station, a busy plaza, anywhere with people. Don't go home, don't go to my house, and don't turn back. I glanced in the rearview mirror. My daughter was watching the streetlights flicker by, humming to herself. Dad, you're scaring me. What's going on? He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. I just got off the phone with a friend in law enforcement. They've been building a case for months against your in-laws, and it's bad. Fraud, money laundering, maybe worse. My grip on the wheel tightened. What does that have to do with me? They're trying to tie you into it. Your wife's name is all over some of the accounts, and the way it looks on paper, you're involved, whether you knew or not. My friend said if you were in that house when they moved in, you could be taken down with them. I swallowed hard. The laughter and chatter from earlier replayed in my head, suddenly sounding more like the Last Supper than a celebration. So this was planned, to use me as the fall guy? Dad's pause was all the confirmation I needed. Get somewhere safe. I'll meet you in 20 minutes. We need to talk face to face, and I'll tell you everything. I turned off onto a well-lit boulevard, but in the mirror, a black SUV appeared, closing the distance fast. The same SUV I'd seen parked down the street from my in-laws when I arrived, and it wasn't passing me. Chapter 3. The Chase. The SUV closed in fast, headlights glaring in my rearview like a predator locking onto prey. Dad, I said into the speaker, keeping my voice low so my daughter wouldn't hear the fear under it. I think someone's following me. How close? Too close, I muttered, changing lanes. The SUV matched my movement. Listen carefully, Dad said, his tone suddenly clipped and tactical. Don't speed. That'll draw police attention. Just keep moving towards somewhere busy. Take turns only you'd know. Make them work to keep up. I flicked my signal right, then at the last second cut left into a side street. The SUV followed without hesitation. My heart kicked harder. Daddy, why are we going a different way? My daughter asked from the back, her voice small. I forced a smile into my tone. We're just taking the fun way, sweetheart. A little game. But inside, I was scanning every storefront, every light, looking for an escape point. Half a mile ahead, I spotted Salvation, a brightly lit 24-hour gas station with a steady stream of customers. I pulled in hard, stopping right under the security cameras and fluorescent lights. The SUV slowed as it passed the entrance. For a moment, I thought they'd turn in, but instead, it kept rolling, disappearing into the dark. I exhaled for the first time in minutes. Good, Dad said when I told him. Stay put, I'm almost there. And when I get there, you're going to hear something that will change how you see your wife's family forever. Chapter 4. The Truth. 10 minutes later, Dad's truck pulled into the gas station, the headlights cutting through the fluorescent glow. He stepped out quickly, scanning the lot before opening my passenger door. Move your car over there under the cameras, he said, pointing to a spot closer to the main entrance. His voice was still tense, but now there was a controlled precision to it, like a man who'd been through situations where one wrong move cost everything. Once my daughter was safely buckled into his back seat, Dad turned to me. They weren't just celebrating tonight, he began. They were closing ranks. My friend in the financial crimes unit told me the warrants are signed. They're hitting your in-laws' house tonight, multiple agencies, and your wife's name is everywhere in the paperwork. I stared at him. But I've got nothing to do with any of this. That doesn't matter if they can make it look like you do, he said firmly. And trust me, they were setting you up. The accounts they used? Many are joint in name only. She's been moving money and the paper trail points to you. The words settled in like ice water in my chest. Dad leaned closer. If you'd stayed there, they could have planted something, cash, documents, even devices, to make you look like an active player. You'd be sitting in a holding cell right now while they tore your life apart. I thought about my wife's strange distractedness during the party, the way her father had been almost too friendly, refilling my glass. As if on cue, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. My father glanced toward the sound. That's them, he said. They're moving in now. I looked at my daughter in the back seat, sleepy, safe, completely unaware of the line we had just sidestepped, and I knew this wasn't over. Chapter 5. The Raid. The sirens grew louder, then cut off abruptly, replaced by the distant thud of car doors slamming and the sharp bark of commands. From the far corner of the gas station lot, I could see the faint flicker of red and blue reflecting against the sky in the direction of my in-laws' neighborhood. My father's eyes never left that glow. They're surrounding the house now, he said quietly, almost to himself. I imagined the scene, officers in tactical gear spilling across the manicured lawn, their boots crunching over the gravel path. The front door would swing open under the weight of a battering ram, and in seconds, the living room, the same one that had been filled with laughter and champagne minutes earlier, would turn into a storm of orders and shuffling feet. I called a friend who lived 2 streets over. He answered on the second ring, voice shaking. Man, your in-laws' place looks like a movie right now. Police vans, unmarked SUVs, agents hauling out boxes and bags. Your wife's out front, cuffed, arguing with some detective. My stomach clenched. And the kids? They're being taken out by a female officer. Calm, but scared. Dad's jaw tightened. You see now why I called you? I nodded slowly. Every instinct screamed to go there, to demand answers. But I knew it would be the worst move I could make. If my father's warning was right, and by the look of things it was, stepping into that scene could have meant stepping into a cell. The phone buzzed in my hand. A message from my wife. Whatever you've heard, it's not true. Meet me. Please. I stared at it, a cold calm settling over me. I didn't reply. Because after tonight, I wasn't walking blindly into anything ever again. Chapter 6. The Unmasking. By the next afternoon, the news was everywhere. Headlines splashed across local channels. Prominent business family at the center of federal fraud investigation. I sat in my father's study, my daughter in the next room drawing pictures with my stepmother, while Dad slid a manila folder across the desk. This is from Harris, he said, his friend in financial crimes. It's everything they have on your in-laws, and your wife. Inside were page after page of bank statements, wire transfers, and contracts. each one a little knife twisting deeper. My wife's signature appeared on multiple offshore account authorizations. She'd been a joint signatory on real estate deals that were nothing but shells to wash dirty money clean. One folder tab was labeled Hayes Setup. Inside, I found something that made my chest go cold. Forged loan agreements and fake consulting invoices, all with my name, all linking me directly to the laundering network. If the raid had happened with me there, they could have claimed I'd been complicit all along. They were going to dump this on you the moment the investigation got too close, Dad said grimly. Make you the scapegoat while they disappeared with whatever they could salvage. A wave of betrayal hit harder than the fear ever had. This wasn't just greed. It was planned, calculated. My wife had stood beside me at dinners, smiled at me across the table, tucked our daughter into bed, all while building the narrative that I'd be the one to take the fall. I closed the file slowly. She thinks I'll still protect her, that she can talk her way out. Dad leaned back. Then maybe it's time she learns exactly who she's dealing with. And in that moment, I knew I wouldn't just defend myself. I'd make sure she never had the chance to pull something like this on anyone else ever again. Chapter 7. Laying the Groundwork. The next morning, I was at Harris's office before the coffee in his mug had cooled. We went over everything again. Every signature, every forged invoice, every offshore account that carried my name without my consent. This is enough to clear you, Harris said, tapping the stack of evidence. But if you're thinking about going beyond that, we need to make sure it's bulletproof. She's going to fight for her reputation as hard as she fought to destroy yours. I nodded. Then we make it so airtight the fight never even starts. First step, public defense. Harris arranged for me to give an official statement through the DA's office, making it clear I was cooperating fully and had been instrumental in uncovering the scheme. It was dry, formal, and perfect. It painted me as the whistleblower, not the suspect. Second step, civil leverage. Mark, my attorney, filed a preemptive civil claim for damages against my wife, citing fraud, identity theft, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. This move froze any assets she still had access to, pending litigation. Third step, social proof. Quietly, I let certain mutual friends, ones she'd never suspect of being in my corner, discover parts of the truth. The court documents were public record now, and it didn't take much for the right screenshots to start circulating in group chats. Her carefully crafted image began to crumble without me saying a word. Through all of it, I didn't contact her once. Not a text. Not a call. If she wanted to talk to me, she'd have to go through my lawyer, and by then, every conversation would be on the record. By the end of the week, her messages had shifted from defensive, "You don't know the full story," to desperate, "Please, can we meet?" But I wasn't interested in her version anymore. The trap was set. Now all I had to do was let her walk into it. Chapter 8. The confrontation. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I'd just left a meeting with my attorney when I saw her, standing near my car in the parking lot, arms folded, sunglasses hiding most of her face. "Daniel," she said the moment I approached, her voice strained but attempting softness. "We need to talk. Alone." I stopped a good 6 feet away. "You know the rules. Anything you have to say goes through Mark." She glanced around, lowering her voice. "This isn't about the case, it's personal. You have to believe me. I didn't mean for things to go this far." I said nothing, letting the silence stretch until she started fidgeting with the strap of her purse. Finally, she blurted it out. They were going to take me down too. I thought if I played along, I'd be safe. But when you left that night, they turned on me. "I need your help, Daniel." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of the sheer gall. "You set me up to take the fall for crimes you knew about, and now you want me to save you?" Her jaw tightened. "If you don't, I could tell them things that make you look bad too." I stepped closer, just enough for her to see the calm in my eyes. You mean the things they already know? The things Harris and the DA's office have documented, time-stamped, and tied directly to you? Her face went pale. I pulled a folded sheet of paper from my jacket and handed it to her. That's the notice of my civil suit against you. Fraud, identity theft, and damages. You'll get the full packet from my lawyer by Friday. She stared at it like it was burning her fingers. You can't. I can, I said, turning away. And unlike you, I don't bluff. By the time I reached my car, she was still standing there. Not the arrogant woman who once told me I had no choice, but someone who'd just realized every door she thought she controlled had been slammed shut. And I hadn't even begun the final stage yet. Chapter 9. The Final Blow. 2 months later, the final stage came together like clockwork. The DA's case against my in-laws was airtight, and my civil suit against my wife was moving forward without a hitch. But I wanted to make sure her reputation, the one she'd built on manipulation and lies, was beyond repair. That's when Harris called. The press is requesting the public release of non-confidential evidence in your case. If you approve it, the court can release the documents. I didn't hesitate. Do it. Within days, local news stations ran headline after headline. Court documents reveal extent of fraud plot, attempt to frame husband. They printed excerpts of her emails, the forged contracts, and, most damning, her own words discussing how she'd make him look unfit for custody. Social media tore her apart. Former friends posted thinly veiled stories about people who use their own children as bargaining chips. The photos she once flaunted of lavish vacations and expensive gifts became evidence of ill-gotten gains. Financially, she was cornered. The civil suit froze her last remaining accounts, and the judge ordered restitution payments directly to me once her assets were liquidated. She had no choice but to sell her jewelry, her car, and even furniture to scrape together the first installment. The last time I saw her was in court, when the judge finalized the settlement. She owed me full damages for fraud and identity theft. She was barred from any contact outside of supervised visitation with our daughter. She was legally required to issue a public retraction of her accusations. As we left the courthouse, she wouldn't look at me. Not because of shame, I don't think she was capable of it, but because she knew there was nothing left to play for. My father was waiting outside, leaning against his truck. When I walked over, he clapped me on the shoulder. "Told you," he said with a faint smile. "Sometimes the best revenge is just making sure the truth is louder than their lies." I looked over at my daughter, laughing with my stepmother on the sidewalk, and realized he was right. The truth had set me free, and left her with nothing but the wreckage she'd made for herself. Epilogue. Freedom. Earned. A year later, the chaos felt like another lifetime. The court battles were over, the settlement payments had started trickling in, and the cloud that had hung over my name was gone. I'd gone from almost being the scapegoat in a multi-million-dollar fraud to being the man who exposed it. Life was simpler now, intentionally so. I kept my circle small, my finances locked down tighter than a vault, and my focus on my daughter. She was thriving, better grades, more friends, a laugh that came easily again. The tension she once felt at home had vanished, replaced by safety and routine. As for her mother, last I heard she was working part-time, living in a small apartment on the outskirts of town. The public retraction she'd been ordered to issue remained online, her name forever tied to the case. Former friends avoided her, and the glamorous life she'd flaunted was a memory she couldn't resurrect. One evening, while watching the sunset from my porch, my father joined me with 2 mugs of coffee. "You know," he said, "that call I made to you, that was instinct. But you took instinct and turned it into justice." I looked out at the horizon, my daughter's laughter drifting from the yard. "Sometimes," I said quietly, "the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's living so well they can never touch you again." And that was the real victory. Not just clearing my name, but building a life she could never take from me. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story. If you think this story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy, and subscribe to Lauren's story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice. Because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.